All right, everybody, welcome back. We're diving right back in to the world of global politics today. Buckle up.
Always a wild ride.
You know it. So if you've been following the situation in Ukraine, you already know things are tense. But get this, behind the scenes, high-level, hush-hush meetings.
Secret diplomacy. Always makes things interesting.
Right. And the kicker, these meetings, they weren't in Geneva or Brussels.
Nope. Not the usual suspects this time.
Think Saudi Arabia.
Riyadh, to be exact.
Yeah, Riyadh. We're talking about U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And across the table, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov.
Exactly. And their goal, finding a way, and a fast one, to end this war in Ukraine. So today we're going deep. What went down in Riyadh? What does it mean for Ukraine?
And why are some major players absolutely furious about being left out in the cold?
All that and more.
Yeah.
Let's get started. I mean, this whole thing is crazy. Secret meetings in Saudi Arabia. It's not exactly the first place you'd think of for peace talks.
Right. It's definitely a curveball, and it adds a whole new layer of complexity to an already complicated situation.
Seriously. I mean, just a few weeks ago, President Trump and Putin had that phone call, right? And now this secret meeting pops up in Riyadh. What's the connection? Did they actually achieve anything?
Well, going into the meeting, both sides were pretty cautious, downplaying expectations. Nobody thought they'd come out with any concrete agreements. But surprise, surprise, they actually managed to agree on some pretty big things.
Oh, really? Spill the tea.
First up, they're putting together teams dedicated to ending the war, and quickly.
Wow. Ambitious much. I mean, ending any war is a huge deal.
Yeah.
But wrapping up this conflict quickly, that's a tall order.
It is. But hey, gotta aim high, right?
True. What else?
They also agreed to set up this special communication channel.
A special channel, like a bad phone, but for diplomacy.
Well, not quite. Think of it more as a direct line between high-ranking officials on both sides, bypassing all the usual red tape and bureaucracy.
So like a VIP hotline for sensitive stuff.
Exactly. For quick, discreet communication when it matters most. Crucial during these kinds of delicate negotiations.
Makes sense. Speed and secrecy. Gotta have them when the stakes are this high. But they're also thinking long-term, right? Planning for the future.
Absolutely. They're already looking at potential economic opportunities that might pop up once the war is over.
It seems kind of early to be thinking about post-war economics when things are still so hot. But I guess it shows they're serious about finding a solution.
I think so, yeah.
Speaking of solutions, there's a pretty big elephant in the room here, isn't there?
You're talking about you in Europe.
Bingo. Where does the EU fit into all of this?
It's a good question. Rubio himself admitted that the EU has to be involved at some point. Any solution, if it's going to stick, needs to work for Ukraine, Russia, and the EU.
A three-way street. Got it.
Exactly.
But didn't they kind of forget to invite the EU to these top-secret talks? I mean, I can't imagine they're thrilled about being left out of a conversation about a war happening right on their doorstep.
You're right. They're not happy. Not one bit. Both Ukraine and the EU are outraged.
Understandably.
Zelensky actually came out and said he straight up won't recognize any agreement that comes out of the Riyadh meeting.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah, it's a big nothing about us without us situation.
Makes sense to me. It must feel like such a betrayal to be excluded from talks about the fate of your own country.
Absolutely.
I bet the U.S. is doing damage control right now.
Oh, big time. The U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine has been doing a lot of reassuring lately, telling Zelensky that no one's going to force a peace deal on him. Ukraine gets to decide,
Okay, so that's good. But even so, this whole secret meeting thing and that curveball location, it really highlights the risk the U.S. took here. And Saudi Arabia's involvement. Man, that just throws a wrench in everything. What do you make of it? Why do you think they wanted to host this meeting?
It's a power move, for sure. Saudi Arabia sees a chance to step onto the world stage as a major diplomatic player. Plus, ending the conflict would be good for their economy, especially when you think about their energy interests.
Right. It all comes back to oil. So we've got secret meetings, surprise locations, furious allies, and a whole lot of questions. What's the bottom line here? What should our listener take away from all of this?
Honestly, I think we're seeing a shift happening in global diplomacy. I mean, look, the U.S. and Russia, they've got their differences big time. And the war in Ukraine, still raging. But they're trying to find common ground.
So there's hope.
Maybe. The U.S. is playing it cautious, testing the waters, not making any major concessions yet. It could mean they're looking for a less confrontational approach.
Interesting. So maybe dialogue is possible, even when things seem impossible. But like you said earlier, can they really achieve lasting peace without everyone at the table?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. The EU's reaction shows that excluding key players can backfire, creates resentment, mistrust. It might even sabotage the whole peace process.
Oof, not good.
Nope. This whole situation just shows how complex global politics really is. Everything's interconnected. Actions in one part of the world have consequences everywhere.
It's a domino effect.
Exactly.
This really makes you think. If the U.S. and Russia can actually pull this off, find some kind of common ground, what happens to the global balance of power? What about the countries caught in the middle, like Ukraine? So much to think about. Thanks for breaking it all
How
down.
you do it?
And that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.